Young ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this new conference, Geopolitics, dedicated to current events global. Top news internationally, Russia is preparing to a war of the future, a war against Europe, against NATO. But the preparations which are underway that the Russia had very recently denied everything and that one of the officials authorized Russian military personnel have just confirming something is scary in a way. It's causing panic all the time. Russia is really getting ready. Acute preparation 24 hours a day while Europe waits until 2028 to receive its orders and then to see to what extent, how is it possible that Europe can pay all these bills during that American arms reserves are almost exhausted, or at least are exhausted because of the war of Uzor in Ukraine, since Russia was not prepared for this war. However, she had been preparing for a long time. While we have all Europe, which is sorely lacking in financial resources to buy new weapons and develop new technologies. During this, at the time, Russia, which knew perfectly well that this conflict would lead to a confrontation with NATO, Russia has been putting the pressure on for a long time, doubles to start preparing the battleground with NATO. But the very nature of the preparation is a record level. It's a level unpublished. Confirmation of this preparation, not necessarily against NATO, mind you. The Russia is not saying it's against NATO, but we already know that. This confirmation is given by one of the Russian officials. Russian military. So, ladies and gentlemen, within the framework of this conference, Geopolitics, that's what current events are about, that we are going to talk about. Well, before to continue, agree to share the conference must be held at maximum capacity. It needs to be share in all groups, allow others to receive information and being immersed in world news, and leave lots of likes. Don't forget, above all, do not leave your differences. Leave your comments below. Just a reminder for all the new people who, if you land on my page, please click on the subscribe button. Subscribe. That allows you to never miss the hottest news, the hottest and most hot topics of the moment. Let's go deep. This is Andrei Klitzvik. It's Clint Klintvik. There you go. It's not easy to pronounce. According to Andrei Klintvik, who is the director of the Center Russian Study of Military Conflicts, kamikaze drone production geranium, known as geranium-2, has reached an unprecedented level. It is the director of the Russian Center for the Study of Military Conflicts that foreshadowed the Geran-2 production has reached an unprecedented level. The Geran-2 drones are these drones which are produced at a lower cost. First, it was drones that were inspired Iranian Shahed drones. The drones, Shahed 131, you know the strength of Iranian drones. They are drones which cost less for their manufacturing, but whose consequences of his strike. That is to say, it costs cheaper, but it destroys objects' priceless value. And Russia had a merciless love for Shahed drones. That's why Iran has installed a factory, Shahed drone production, on the side of Russia. But Russian scientists, having acquired an endless taste for Shahed 131, wanted to print a seal in particular, a particular brand Russian information on the components of these drones kamikaze. So they created drones, Geran-2. So this is the modified Shahed, but which costs even less per report to the Shahed, but which causes more damage doubly or even 4 times more than Shade 131. So the production has reached the unprecedented level. Russia is producing this. If it's for Ukraine, Russia already has many reserves. The Russian military authorities, including the Minister of Defense, had presented the interior of the factory production, Gantu drone stock from Shahed drone that Russia had. Now, why Russia is currently to produce at maximum capacity, that is to say without rest. Why? Obviously, Russia is preparing for a high-intensity war against powerful countries. That's NATO. So according to the gentleman who is the director of Russian Center for Conflict Studies Military, Russian military factories, the factories are running at full capacity. Russian military personnel are operating at full capacity diet, to the point that entire batches of drones are no longer used immediately. Entire batches of drones are no longer used immediately, but rather these drones are sent to strategic storage in several military warehouses. We've finished production, the batch is here. We don't send it to Ukraine. We'll send it not to the camps. We don't send him at the front. Russia has created zones of storage in military camps. On. Sends them directly for storage. Storage upon storage, storage upon storage. It's storing. Russia prepares for confrontation with NATO. It would be best if, when the time came, the Russia is either lacking drones and weapons. So Moscow's message is clear. Russia is not just fighting for today. Russia is not fighting only for today, but essay. It is already preparing for tomorrow's war. Who is this war of tomorrow for? And so it must be said that the geranium is the symbol of a war industry expanding. Because the Guerra 2, which is a long-range kamikaze drones often compared to Shahed 136 Iranian, but now produced entirely on Russian soil, is capable of striking from over 1,000 kilometers away. It is used extensively against the Ukrainian infrastructure, but also in integration tests of electronic warfare. So Russia has diversified the capabilities and skills of the GAN-2. So what makes the storage of these drones demonstrate a strategy accumulation? Moscow wants to be ready for a conflict prolonged against NATO. Clearly, Moscow wants to be ready for a prolonged conflict against NATO and not no longer just a war of attrition against Ukraine. That's it. It's no longer Ukraine is the only one of interest. So this is a strategic signal to the West, it must be said. It's a warning to the West. And I tell you, as I've already said, the West they started to panic when they saw that Russia has gathered or began to assemble tanks, armored vehicles in the Kaliningrad enclave and in many military camps that are close to the border, particularly in the vicinity of the Baltic Sea. When they realized this, they shot on the alarm bell. To divert their attention, Russia has said, no, these are centers of maintenance. Russia is currently to perform maintenance on its devices. There you go. And then it is modernized, but Russia is proceeding with the maintenance. Why? Why modernize them? Why this? Are these spaces at the level of the Ottoman border which are chosen for these maintenance tasks? What it remains clear that Russia is preparing for a protracted war with NATO. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the front page of the news. Thank you for sharing it. I'll get back to you in a little while.